Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikisha, and if you're new to this channel, we talk everything health and family. And this is my husband, Stevie. He's our special guest today, and I wanted to take advantage of today because February is a very special month. In February, we celebrate Valentine's Day, and today happens to be Valentine's Day. And this is my favorite Valentine and has been for many years, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But February is also Black History Month and also National Heart Month. And so we wanted to shed light on all of that today and just share, a brief story about us and a day that we almost had to say goodbye to each other because of a heart scare that I had. And so we just wanted to share this story with you. So I think I want to start out by sharing a little bit about us and our love. And we've been together now. This is our 21st Valentine's Day together. Yeah. Stevie here is my high school sweetheart. We met in 1999, summer of 1999. We were both in high school, seniors in high school. Yeah. And we met at a church event. And I think it's kind of cool how we met too. We were going to a retreat, and his uncle was my pastor, and he came to pick us up. They had a church van, and they came to pick us up for the retreat. And I was waiting for the bus to come and get me, and then I heard the beep beep outside, and I got my bag, and I heard the doorbell ring, and some stud was standing there, and I did not know how to react. And he said, I'm here to pick you up for the church event. And he took my bag, and there we went into the bus. And while in the bus, we started talking. He asked me some questions about myself, and I think that was pretty much the extent of it then. And then after that, we went to the retreat, and we sat together. We were probably the youngest person there, right?
We definitely were.
Yeah. And so we kind of bonded together with that because this was our first time, and it was kind of like weird being around all these older people. And they had a banquet at the end, and neither of us, maybe you knew about it.
Yeah, I forgot my shoes, dress shoes for this event. And Nikki always packs way more than enough shoes, so she was fine.
Shoes-wise.
But she didn't have attire for a banquet, so we came up with
an arrangement, right? Because I saw him and I said, "Are you going to this banquet?" I didn't know there was a banquet, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going." And I think his uncle had left something up in the room, and he said, "Can you go and get, I think it was a Bible or something, tell my nephew to give you my Bible." And when I went, I saw on the bed he had laid out a suit, and at the end he had a sneakers at the bottom. Like, he had the whole outfit laid out, but at the bottom there was the sneakers. And I saw that and I started laughing. I'm like, "What's that about?" And he's like, "Well, I came prepared for the banquet, but I didn't bring any dress shoes." And he's like, "Are you going?" I'm like, "All I brought was jeans and t-shirt and just, dress down stuff, so I'm not gonna go." And he's like, "Guess what? If you wear what you brought, I'll wear my jeans and my t-shirt too, and we can go together." And yeah,
That's what we did.
that was history. That's what we did. We went, and we had a good time talking together and hanging out. And by the end of the event, when we were driving back home, he asked me for my number, and I wanted to give it to him, but I didn't want to make it seem easy. So I said to him, "If you really want my number, you should ask your uncle." Because I never thought he would ask his uncle for my number, And so before they got home, after they had dropped most of the church budget home and they were on their way home, the phone rang and it was him. And I was just all giggles. I'm like, this guy is crazy. About 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, we had a little scare. We were expecting our third child, And we were so excited because we already had 2 boys and we were expecting a girl. And it had been a very complicated pregnancy for me to begin with. It was considered a high-risk pregnancy because I had taken a medication, a ciprofloxacin, an antibiotic, while I was in early pregnancy and was not aware that I was pregnant at the time. So they were monitoring the baby for any cardiac effects or heart effects or anything like that. And I remember I had gotten really sick, almost like with a cold. I wasn't feeling well. I was like seven months pregnant at the time. And I came down with a fever, and I called into work and was just watching it. And I remember just feeling so fatigued and tired, just walking from my bedroom to the bathroom, and my heart was beating so fast. And I checked my pulse, and it was 146. I'm like, that's crazy. And I just felt so short of breath. So I said to Stevie, I said, something isn't right. I just feel so short of breath. And I remember the following day I called out too, and I said, you know what, I need to go see my primary doctor because I was getting even more short of breath and my heart rate was always in the 150s. And so I said, something is going on here. And so I went, I saw the doctor, and I was explaining to him how fatigued I was, how tired, how short of breath, and my heart rate has been so high. And by the time he was assessing me, he kind of figured something was wrong too, and he said, you know what, just walk down the hall for me and walk back. And when I did, he saw the changes in my heart rate. It went up to 160 in his office. And he said, you know what, I'm concerned for like a pulmonary embolism or a clot. So I need you to go to emergency right away. And we went, Steve was with me, we hurried up and dropped the kids over to my dad, and we went to the emergency room, and they, hooked me up and did an EKG and was doing all kind of blood tests. And, they said, we don't see any abnormalities with your heart, and they gave me some hydration, and said I might be a little bit dehydrated, and then they pretty much sent me home. They monitored the baby, they did an ultrasound, they said baby was fine, my heart was fine, and they sent me home. The next morning I wake up thinking I was feeling better. I didn't feel, as sick. I got up, I was still short of breath, and then I felt like my throat felt a little tight. But I went in the bathroom to wash my face, and when I looked at my neck, I had like 2 golf balls right here, and I screamed. My lymph nodes were so enlarged, literally like 2 golf balls. And I said, Steve, look at this. I said, something is definitely wrong. We gotta go to emergency right away. And my heart rate was, it was like maybe 170 at that point, just me walking from the bedroom to the bathroom. So we dropped the kids off again at my dad and ran to the emergency room. And by the time we went that time, when they saw my neck, they were like, oh my God, we gotta, check her out real quick. So they pulled me back in the back, and they did a lot of lab work, and then they told me they needed to do a VQ scan, but there was some risk that could pose to the baby. So I had to sign a consent for them to do that, to rule out pulmonary embolism. And I said, okay. But it was still scary because, I didn't know what the effects would have been on the baby or what the outcome was going to be. But I knew that if I wasn't okay, the baby was going to be okay. So we did the VQ scan. It came back negative. They did blood work. The white count was a little elevated, but nothing was really showing up significantly. They did an EKG, and then they finally decided they were going to do an echocardiogram to look at my entire heart, because by the time they had hooked me up to the cardiac monitors, I had heart rate in 140s, 150s sustained, and they couldn't figure out why I had this tachycardia going on. The only thing I could remember was I had bought a cat for my son, and the cat has scratched me, right? Mm-hmm. And I told them that. So they were thinking cat scratch disease. But I remember after coming down from the cardiac exam, they were telling me that my heart was like textbook and nothing was wrong. There was no blockages. Everything was good. And then I came back and they wanted me to leave a urine in the bathroom. So Stevie was there with me, and he was helping me walk back and forth to the bathroom. And when I came back from the bathroom, from giving the urine sample, I sat on the bed. I was so short of breath and so winded. When you're in the emergency room, they make you take off the cardiac monitor. When you come back into bed, you hook yourself back up. So I said to Steve, I said, you gotta hook me back up. I gotta see what my heart rate is, because it's just pounding out of my chest. And he did. And I think it was like what?
All I remember is that it was red. or
Yes.
whatever the alarm
The,
went off.
the machine kept alarming. It was like 180 or something like that. And I thought, okay, relax, take some deep breaths. It's gonna go down. But it kept going up and up. I think at one point I was almost like at 200, and I said, Steve, go get somebody. I could barely utter that to tell him to go get somebody. And I thought they would have seen it, right? Because
They have the monitors at their desk.
yeah, they have all the monitors at their desk. So he ran out of the room and said, somebody come, my wife. And by that time, I almost felt, you know, when people say you have an outer body experience, when you think like you're going up to heaven or something like that. I could hear the people around me. I know something is going on, but I felt like I was losing it. What was you thinking in that moment?
Well, on our side, or from my perspective, again, I'm not a medical professional. If there's no wires sticking out of you, I don't know what to do. So the doctors came in with a crash cart or whatever and started running around the bed to take a look at her, and they're, you know, beating her chest and pulling on her neck and doing all type of, you know, procedures to kind of get her going again. They did mention to her that they were going to hit her with some medication and that it's going to make her feel like she's falling. And, you know, shortly thereafter, you know, she just flopped over, and they gave her this shot, and then she pops back in screaming. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on at the time and a lot of confusion, obviously, from my perspective, because it's not something that I'm used to. But yeah, it was a definitely scary moment for.
And for me, it was like an out-of-body experience because I'm hearing his perspective. But for me, everything was just blurry. Like I could hear voices. I could hear they say, "Get the crash card." And I remember my nurse that was taking care of me. She went on break, and she said, "I just left and went on break. What happened?" So I can hear all the voices, but it's like I'm not there. It's like I'm losing myself. And when I felt like I was losing myself, I held on to his hand and I said, "Babe," I just kept saying, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus." I said, "Call my mom, call my dad, call them, let them know I'm really sick." You know, because at that point, I really felt like I wasn't gonna make it. I just felt like my body was just drifting away, away, away. I didn't know I was even in the bed at that time. And what they were doing was they were doing carotid massages on my neck to try to get the heart rate to go down. This time, I think I went up to like 220. My heart rate went up to 220, and it was sustaining. I remember a nurse saying to me, like I said, I can hear everything, but it's like I'm not there. It's like an out-of-body experience. She said, "I'm going to give you a medication. It's going to make you feel very weird." They were giving me adenosine to try to help to slow the heart rate. They had the crash card there, and they were ready to shock me if they had to. If the heart had just stopped beating. And I kept saying, "My baby, but my baby." I remember saying that because I was just thinking of the baby. And you know, they were trying to decide what medication would be best for me because they don't want to give something that would harm the baby. But you know, if you're a medical professional, you know, if your life is if a mother's life is in danger, the mother's health takes priority over the baby, because if the mother dies, chances are the baby won't survive either. And so their priority was to take care of me. And so but they were trying to be as careful. They were asking, "But what if we give her this? We can't give her that." And so there was risk in giving the adenosine, but the heart rate was not coming down with the carotid massage. And I think they thought part of it was like my anxiety. But you know, when your heart is beating, when you have tachycardia that much, arrhythmias that much, it's really like a very horrible feeling, because it really feels like you're dying. And like I said, that feeling like I was drifting away, I when I told him to call my mom and call my dad, and my mom was not even in the United States at the time, she was vacationing in Jamaica. I didn't tell any of them I was sick, even when I dropped my kids off. I just told my dad I wasn't feeling well. He didn't really know how serious I was. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like I was dying there. And I just remember closing my eyes and saying, "Jesus, Jesus, 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 Jesus." And the doctor kept saying, "It's going to be okay. You're trying to calm me down," you know, to try to see if the heart rate would respond with me not, you know, saying, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus." And they went ahead and they gave me the adenosine. I don't remember if they gave me once, but I remember feeling like I was coming back to myself, you know, after the medication started working. I think it brought the heart rate down to maybe like 130s, 120s. And I was able to come back to, and I was just in tears. I was so scared. But I remember Stevie just being there, and he kept saying, you're gonna be okay, baby. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be okay. I could hear his voice there in the background telling me I was gonna be okay. And that was such a comfort to me because it was such a scary moment. But when I came to and I looked at him, I could also tell on his face that he was so scared. You know?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he probably almost had a heart attack himself watching me go through that and watching them bring the crash cart in and everything like that. And the funny thing was, well, it wasn't funny at the time. I was more concerned because I figured they would have seen that irregularity on the cardiac monitor, you know, because they're, you know, but I guess in the emergency room, a lot of people on cardiac monitors, everything is dinging, dinging, dinging. Nobody was really paying attention. And I was so thankful that you were there that day that I could say, because I couldn't even holler it out my mouth fast enough to tell him, go get somebody. This is not normal. I'm dying here, right? And
I mean, that goes to, I know you've talked about this before, being an advocate for yourself and being, you know, having people around you during situations like this that can advocate for you. Again, it is not my comfort zone, but, you know, having to, even going out to the front and talking to the nurses at the desk, you know, there's this, you know, awkwardness to it that, hey, I think y'all should be paying attention to what's going on because I don't want to tell them what to do. Is your job.
How to do their job, right?
But, you know, being in a space where you understand the urgency and that there is something going on. I know when I went to that table, you know, and I said, hey, you know, something's going on. You know, I don't know if they were busy or doing something else, or, you know, understanding that maybe she undid her machine to go do something else. But, you know, it was me, you know, getting urgent with them. Like, no, I don't think you get it. Y'all need to get up. She's connected. And then they started to run.
Yeah, by the time they saw it, they ran with the crash cart and called a code and everything. And, you know, it didn't stop there. They moved me closer to the desk, the nurse's station, where they could monitor me more. And I remember I had to use the bedpan to pee again. And they didn't want me to move or anything because any type of movement would, you know, cause an arrhythmia. But I got up to use the bedpan, and then I said to Steve, it's coming back, because I could feel it when the heart is racing. This time it went to about 170, and they started the carotid massage. They had me on a drip by that time too, and it kind of leveled off. But that ended up, remember, I'm 7 months pregnant at the time. I ended up spending 6 days in the cardiac, you know, intensive care unit. And what they boiled it down to is probably like I had some type of infection. They couldn't tell what type of infection I had. They gave me azithromycin, an antibiotic, for 5 days, and they saw some response with the swelling, the adenopathy, and then, you know, I had to work with physical therapy, I believe, to help me to walk around. They wouldn't let me get up for a while, and even when I was trying to rehab myself and walking around the unit, I would get the heart rate of 120s. Even up on discharge, I think I was still like at 100. But by that time, I was feeling more like myself, and I was getting better. And, you know, the cardiologist came in and he told me, he said, I can't find anything wrong with your heart. Your heart is completely fine. You actually have a textbook heart. All the valves is what we want to show our students of what your heart looks like. But when I was discharged and I followed up with the cardiologist, he said to me, he said, you know, this is the weirdest thing we've seen. And, you know, all we can say is it's like a complication from pregnancy, and I would just advise you not to have any more children because you're getting older, and this was something that almost took your life, and so I would advise you not to have any more children. I mean, at that point, we weren't planning on having any more children, but okay. we are. 3 is enough. But listen, you know, if I was a younger person, or even if I wasn't younger and I was planning on having another child, that would have been very devastating news to us. And so that day was, you know, a very, you know, real moment for us. And, you know, a lot of times women are pregnant and they just view it as a natural process. People view it as a natural process, but there's so much complications that can happen when you're pregnant. And that was one of the most scariest experiences. I shared it with my parents after, and they were so mad. They were like, why didn't you tell me? But we didn't know that day when we were going in for the adenopathy or the, you know, the tachycardia, or, you know, the shortness of breath, that I was going to end up almost being coded,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so, you know, we just wanted to bring awareness, about heart health and, about just the importance of taking care of ourselves, even when we're young, because sometimes when we think of cardiac diseases, we think of elderly,
Mm-hmm.
that it happens only to the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
And you also had a heart scare, but we can talk about that at another time, because it can happen to anyone,
Pretty much, yeah.
anyone. And so as it's, February, Valentine's Day, Heart Appreciation Month, and Black History Month, we are so appreciative that, number one, that I made it through that experience alive, that our love is still strong,
Mm-hmm.
and that this year we're both focusing on our health and making sure that our physical heart is staying intact, so we can be around longer for three little ones.
Definitely.
Yes. So we just want to send a message out there to all our friends and all our loved ones to, to remember to eat healthily, to exercise, and to do your yearly checkup with your doctor so you can continue to maintain a healthy heart. And I just want to tell you that we love you and we wish you all the best of love and health as we continue in 2021. So happy Valentine's Day to you all, and thanks for sharing in our story.